Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. And it is time for the April pile of possibilities. But for the first time ever, that is going to be very different. So, you remember all those roadmap plans I had at the end of last year for 2025? You can consider those for, in large part, pitched out the window entirely. I swore at the end of 2023 or 2024 to myself that I wasn't going to put as much pressure on myself to, read a certain way or do a certain thing. And then what do I end up doing? I invent this incredibly detailed roadmap that does precisely the opposite thing. And it is not working. So it is time to throw the roadmap away and consign it to the dustbin of history. Dave's 25 and 25, I'm still going to read. If I do not read them all this year, that is okay. Because if I don't continue the path I took in March, I'm going to regret it. So, March is going to be, yes, I'm participating in challenges like I have been. Yes, I'm still doing Discover Catholic Fiction. However, I'm also mood reading extensively. And that's from my shelves, that's from my Kindle, that's everything. So, this list may look absolutely nothing like what I actually end up reading in April, and I will be okay with that. So, let's talk about the actual books first. So, the actual books first. Let's do book club read first. The book club choice for April is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This is set in New Orleans. I am so looking forward to this book. I like the fact that Ruta's chapters are short and punchy, and she has a very approachable writing style. And it's still historical fiction, and I want to read her to zero. So I'm thrilled that book club chose this for April. And couldn't be happier. Okay, and so my choice for Anne, and I will link my April recommendations video in the description box, is A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. This is his memoir, and it is under 250 pages. It has photos and copies of his correspondence, and it fits Anne's Reading the Classics challenge. Hemingway is quite the character in and of himself, and I do not read a lot of memoirs, so I am looking forward to this. I'm not going to read you the back because I read the back in my recommendations video. So, that's Hemingway. For Amanda's challenge, I am actually going to pick up Front Yard by Norman Draper. I love this cover. Seriously. Again, I read the back of this in my recommendations video. I've been wanting to read this for a while. I picked this up from my library bookshop, and I've read the companion novel to this, which is The Backyard. I actually even own this on my Nook as well. I own both of these on Nook, and I'm pleased as punch to have a hard copy of this book. So that is 3 books down. And the last book, and this will work for Jeanette's Read Christian Fiction Challenge, and the prompt is a new to you author, and that is The Extraordinary Death of Mrs. Kipp by Sarah Brunsvold. I'm probably the only person that hasn't read this yet. This is generic Christian fiction. I know everybody who's read this book has loved it. It is just over 350 pages, so we will see how I get along with it. I'm looking forward to it. I know everybody who's read this has found it impactful, so we shall see. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm in process reading next. Okay, so the in-process books are a great example of how incredibly varied and incredibly scattered my reading has been in March, and I'm loving it. So, first up would be Anathema by Neil Stevenson. And budding reading this with Tracy. It is also the read-along book for Tiffany over at Beautiful Minutia. I am through the first 4 sections. Yep. And I have fallen in love with this book. It is very much hard science fiction. It is still very much capable of making me go, you are not smart enough to read this book. And still, I am loving it. I am absolutely loving this book. It has gotten to the point where something has happened. I don't yet know what, and I need to know. I need to know. So, I am looking forward to picking this back up in April, or continuing it in March and picking it back up in April. And then we jump to, I've started Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. I am, how far am I? A whopping 20 pages in, but that, I'm okay with that being, 20 pages. I am in no, massive rush to finish Anna Karenina within a time frame. It is Russian literature. It does not necessarily read quickly, but by the same token, it does not necessarily read slowly. And if you can hear the mower, my neighbor next door is mowing, and I apologize. He is normally at work. Okay, so I'm also reading Tom Jones by Henry Fielding. This is on the road to the first English novel. I am vlogging it. Again, this is another one I am taking slowly, and I am not in a rush. It is enjoyable. I am enjoying discovering who Tom Jones is. Maybe it's the neighbor across the street. People don't normally mow at this hour. So, yes. Okay, last up in process. This is Catholic Science Fantasy, and I am reading The Shadow of the Torturer by Gene Wolfe. It is the first book in this bind-up, and I talked about this in my second quarter genre recommendations for Catholic fiction, which I will link that down below as well. And I am completely invested in this book, but it is yet another one that is very nuanced, and I'm reading slowly. And I am enjoying the nuanced, slowly reading experience, not trying to rush through to get things read for a particular video on a particular schedule. Does that mean I'm reading everything slowly? No. But some books absolutely are going slower than others, and it's been marvelous. So, up next, what am I going to read on my Kindle? Up first is going to be... I knew I shouldn't have used my Kindle to do this. Here we go. Grandmother and the Priest Stories by Taylor Caldwell. And this is a recent purchase. It is... I'll read you the description. In Victoria, Britain, an affluent woman hosts a group of Catholic priests in her home and listens as they tell their stories. Rose, a young girl visiting her grandmother, sits among 11 priests from Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. As each guest shares the most challenging moments of their vocations, tests of faith that have brought them face to face with the miseries, temptations, and evils that lurk beyond the peaceful confines of the rectory, their worldly, wealthy hostess and her granddaughter come to learn the struggles and outcomes of these confrontations with the human condition. I have a couple of Cadwell books I have picked up recently, and that would just be one among them. And yeah, I am looking forward to that one immensely. Next up, I want to try Bless Me, Father by Neil Boyd. This is the first book in the Bless Me, Father series, and it is Catholic fiction. It's not actually Catholic classic fiction. It was written in the 1950s, and I will read you the blurb. Young Neil Boyd has just finished divinity school and has been newly ordained as a priest. His first post? St. Jude's Parish, a corner of London with a raucous congregation full of Irish immigrants. The flock is an odd pairing with the gentle Father Boyd, but he just might be mad enough and tender enough to get through to them. 342 pages. It sounds fun. And I have so many heavy books right now that sounds fun is high on my list. However, what is also high on my list would be Darkfire, which is the second book in the Matthew Shardlake series by C.J. Sansom. And this one comes in at a whopping 608 pages on Kindle. I am, at the time of filming, listening to the first book in this series, which is Dissolution. And it is historical mystery set in the time of Henry VIII, when Cromwell's power is at its peak. And it is fascinating. Yes, it is filled with anti-Catholic rhetoric, but it is absolutely 100% historically on point for all of it, and it is not taking away from the series in the slightest. So I will read you the blurb for this one. In 1540, during the reign of Henry VIII, Shardlake is asked to help a young girl accused of murder. She refuses to speak in her defense, even when threatened with torture. But when the case seems lost, Thomas Cromwell, the king's feared vicar general, offers Shardlake 2 more weeks to prove his client's innocence. In exchange, Shardlake must find a lost cache of Darkfire, a legendary weapon of mass destruction. What ensues is a page-turning adventure filled with period detail and history. Like I said, I am currently listening to the first book in the series, and I'm finding it hard to hit pause on the book and, edit a video or spend time with Dave. So, yeah, there is that. Okay, and last up on my Kindle, the first book in the Tate and Bell mystery series by Irina Shapiro. That is a Highgate Cemetery murder. And it is 367 pages. And I will read you the description. His heart pounding, the man scribbles the words in his notebook as fast as he can. Woman dead in Highgate. Man in Cape Coat. Milky Way and red streaks. I am being followed. Hours later, the man's cold body lies in the city mortuary alongside the woman he couldn't save. And his sister, unconventional nurse Gemma Tate, tracks down troubled police inspector Sebastian Bell to unravel the truth. Sebastian has enough pressure to solve the murder of an aristocratic heiress without Gemma meddling in his case. But the cryptic sentences she brings him from her brother's notebook could be a crucial lead. If they only knew what Milky Way meant. But as the trail of clues takes them away from the gilded drawing rooms of the nobility and into the dangerous slums of London, how far will their partnership be tested on the quest for justice, and will they emerge unscathed? I want to try this. It's on Kindle Unlimited. And yeah. And on a lighter note on Kindle Unlimited, where is it? There we go. One more. That is The Windsor Knot. It is the first book in Her Majesty the Queen Investigates series by S.J. Bennett. And it is 307 pages. And there are 5 books in this series currently. So I will read you the blurb. It is the early spring of 2016, and Queen Elizabeth is at Windsor Castle in advance of her 90th birthday celebration. But the preparations are interrupted by the shocking and untimely death of a guest in one of the castle bedrooms. The scene leads some to think the young Russian pianist strangled himself. Yet a badly tied knot leads MI5 to suspect foul play. When they begin to question the household's most loyal servants, Her Majesty knows they're looking in the wrong place. For the Queen has been living an extraordinary double life ever since her teenage years as Lilibet. Away from the public eye and unbeknownst to her closest friends and advisors, she has the most brilliant skill for solving crimes. With the help from her assistant private secretary, Rosie Oshadi, a British-Nigerian officer recently appointed to the Royal Horse Artillery, the Queen discreetly begins making inquiries. As she carries out her royal duties with her usual aplomb, no one in the royal household, the government, or public knows that the resolute Elizabeth won't hesitate to use her keen eye, quick mind, and steady nerve to bring a murderer to justice. S.J. Bennett captures Queen Elizabeth's voice with skill, nuance, wit, and genuine charm in this imaginative and engaging mystery that portrays Her Majesty as she's rarely seen. Kind yet worldly, decisive, shrewd, and most importantly, a superb judge of character. I just think it sounds fascinating, and it will be a much lighter book than the heavy pile of in-process work. So that is what April is shaping up to be like. Am I going to pick up a day book during the month? Yeah, most probably. Am I going to pick up something on my own personal 10 list? Maybe. Am I going to pick up something completely not on this list? Undoubtedly. I am good with that. Are you guys mood reading in April? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.